Good morning out there in streaming world. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. I'm already tired. It's Wednesday, June 11th. And yeah, I'm already lost on like what day of the week it is. You're tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI Show for short, because we bring you too much information. I'm Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. We're live every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So, guys, please be sure to hit that like button wherever you're consuming this content. And if you are on Rumble, or if you're not yet there, head over to Rumble. And if you're in the position, hit that Rumble Premium join button. It's a big red button right below our talking heads there. So you can enjoy the premium content that we are starting to produce, because we are new to this program, but you'll be able to watch not only our show and our premium content commercial free, but everybody's. So there are a good number of Rumble premium shows out there with a lot of content that might be kind of taboo or off limits elsewhere. So, fun content if you're looking for some spicier conversation that you're not going to find on YouTube. So thank you guys for being with us. We're going to keep the show snappy and moving along. So with that, good morning, Ted.
Good morning, Manila.
We had an interesting pre-show conversation about animal attacks, and maybe we should do a premium episode about
let's
that.
do it. Let's do animal attacks. That'd be awesome.
Because, well, producer Robbie, he lives out in the wilderness in Montana.
He does.
like the Unabomber. And there are a lot of animals out there, and a lot of non-native tourists that go there. And around this time every year, there are lots and lots of animal attacks, because Californians mostly, or New Yorkers that go, that they want to see animals in the wild and they think they're at a petting zoo.
Hey, I think Californians, I have no facts or data to support the following statement at all. This is totally
But-
pulled from deep inside my rectum. But I believe that there's no chance that New Yorkers are as stupid as Californians. Californians
You're probably right.
are much more likely to be insulting and annoying to animals than New Yorkers.
You're probably right.
Because New Yorkers ride the subway, so we know
That's
to
true.
just keep to mind our business.
Keep your hands to yourselves. Don't. That's probably true. And Californians are, the crunchy, like, oh my God, look, a little baby moose. I'm gonna go get it.
Yeah, moose are incredibly aggressive. I didn't really realize that. I thought they were just sort of big old lugs. But I had a friend who went to the University of Alaska, and he said that the moose would sometimes be on campus, just wandering between the buildings. And he said that like you learn to avoid them. They're very territorial. They're aggressive. And of course, insanely powerful.
They're giant. They're like the size of an SUV.
Right.
No thanks.
Yeah. And we're not talking like a RAV4 either. Yeah.
No. This is like the size of like a Yukon Denali.
yeah.
Just, are we still?
Although, by the way, I would say I would respect the American presidency a lot more if presidents rode around on mooses.
I bet Vladimir Putin does.
Yeah. Well, they don't have.
Besides bears,
they don't have those in Russia.
I don't think they have. Yeah, I don't think.
I don't know. They could.
I don't know. Maybe they have something.
It's an Arctic animal.
I don't know. That's something to look up. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you guys watch a Rumble Premium special about
there's
weird
a lot of moose in
attacks?
Russia. A lot of moose.
There are moose.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like a North American animal.
The Chukotka moose, known as the East Siberian moose, is renowned for its impressive size, often comparable to the Alaskan moose, and is a prized trophy for hunters.
Oh.
All right. Well, now you know.
Well, okay. Well, would you guys watch that? Should we get an animal expert to talk about animal attacks? That would
moose attacks.
Could be. I mean, I don't even know that we lost the
Manila,
crocodile
have you ever
hunter.
been attacked by an animal?
Other than like little
Like a dog
yippy
bite?
dogs in California, no.
Dog bite, snake bite.
A cat bit me once.
Badly?
No, I mean I was probably when I was a kid. I was probably really bad, like poking at it or something, and neighborhood cat just kind of nipped at me. But no, I'm not stupid enough to go messing around with random animals. I respect that. Remember, Animal Kingdom. I'm of that age.
Mutual of Omaha.
I'm of that age, so I'm aware that animals be bitey.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I always think of what happened to Steve Irwin, right?
That's what I'm saying.
He was a little too intimate with that ray. That ray decided to shoot his ass right through his heart.
Oh, so tragic. Oh, so tragic. But anyway, I think that could be an interesting episode if we talk to a random animal expert. I don't even know what to call that.
We could do a more obscure one about when plants attack people, or when mushrooms attack people. That doesn't happen.
I don't even know. Can somebody recommend who is the new Steve Irwin? Who is the who's like a Crocodile Dundee type person today? Because after Steve Irwin, is there even an international figure of?
Well, there was.
That's like the animal wrangler.
There was Le Roi des Tigres, the Tiger King, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, he's in prison.
He went to jail, right? Did he get pardoned by the Donald?
Not yet.
He had talked about that, but I don't know.
Not yet. Although I could see that coming for sure. For sure.
Me too.
All right. With that, let us know your opinions. Would you be interested in seeing and hearing about animal attacks from an animal expert? Leave your comments, or if you're in the Rumble chat or the YouTube chat, give us your thoughts. We'll reply. What do you think about an animal show?
You want to tell the good people out there what we're going to be talking about today?
Oh, that's a good idea. Like I said, I'm very tired. I'm very tired today. The kiddo, my kindergartner, today's the last day of school. He doesn't usually nap anymore at this age. They don't usually nap. But for whatever reason, he fell asleep yesterday after school, and I couldn't wake him up, so I let him nap, and then he stayed up all night. And I'm sorry, Ted, I know you're a dad, but it always, usually, not always, but usually falls on mom, these sleepless nights.
Well, when there is a mom. Yeah, that would be true. Mm-hmm.
Usually. So this is sleepless night, mom. Just here, take the iPad.
All right, Manila, let's get this over with then, and like tell the people what they're going to be hearing.
Oh yeah, we're doing
them.
that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, I forgot.
Less whinging, more talking.
Sorry, I'm losing track. Because seriously,
I can do it. Here, I'll tell everyone what we're talking about.
Okay, tell everybody.
Okay, we're going to be talking about the mass shooting in Austria, the situation in LA, the U.S.-China trade deal, and my new column, which may or may not run in the Washington Post, but that I'm arguing that the most dangerous place in the world to be Jewish is Israel. So the idea that Israel is necessary as a safe haven for Jews is total bullshit, and I have the numbers to prove it. So with that, let's jaws it. Let's do it.
Ted
I did the math. These 10 people have been killed, 12 wounded after a former student opened fire at a high school in Graz, Austria, about 10 o'clock in the morning local time yesterday. The mass shooting in the second largest city in the country is the worst attack in the country's post-war history and among Europe's most fatal shootings in 4 decades. The suspect, 21 years old, also killed himself in the school bathroom. That's how I've always wanted to die, by suicide in the school bathroom. It just seems like the most dignified way to go. Authorities recovered his legally owned long gun and handgun at the scene, and they think that he did this all by himself, although we don't have a motive. Apparently, they found a goodbye letter at his house, but it didn't explain why he did what he did. The gunman's and his victims' identities haven't yet been disclosed. Chancellor Christian Stocker has declared 3 days of mourning nationally. Austria has a lot of gun ownership, actually. It has one of the highest civilian gun ownership rates in Europe, about 30 firearms per 100 people. Larger countries like France and Germany have about 20 guns per 100 people. Yet, still, mass shootings are relatively rare in the Central European country. Yesterday's attack is Austria's 3rd mass shooting since 2000. So, yeah, there's a lot more guns in Europe than Americans think. Which is probably think they don't have any, but that's not true at all.
Yeah, that was France, actually pretty surprising.
There's a lot of hunting.
Hunting?
Hunting. Yeah, a lot of hunting. People hunt a lot in Europe. I mean, in France, hunting is huge. Yeah, of course.
Really?
Yeah. You go. Yeah, it's a thing. You know, I mean, it has the tradition goes back forever. You know, so.
I don't know. I
mean, not in Paris, but you know.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I've only been to the big cities, you know, like Nice and Paris, and so I've never.
You're missing out. The best part of that's what Americans do. They go to the big cities, and I mean, it's fine, or Rome or whatever. But like, the best parts of Europe are outside of the major cities. Like, honestly, the best thing to do if you have like a week in France, ditch Paris. Don't even stay there a day. Like, leave immediately and go to the countryside. That's where it's at. It's
really.
Absolutely, it's.
So I was shocked to see these numbers that 3 out of 10 Austrians own guns. Like, that's
maybe. I mean, right? Like, that's assuming one gun per
100.
Every gun owner owns one gun, which is not always the case.
Right, which is usually but the ratio is still 30 guns per 100 people.
Yeah, and you know, it's a good point. You know, the thing is, I bet most people who live in Vienna don't have a gun, right? I mean, you don't need one. So but a lot of people who live in cities might have a rifle and then go hunting in the countryside when they're on vacation and stuff. But that's not usually the case. It's a rural. Guns are a rural.
What are the odds, Ted, that this school shooter? I mean, he's a recent-ish grad, right? He's like 21 years old. He returned to his old stomping grounds, his high school. What are the chances he was a victim of the very topic we were talking about last week with the dad? What are the chances that he was bullied? And
pure speculation, just like my previous thing. But I mean, I'm going to say, yeah, I mean, that would be it's something to be looked into, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's certainly, I would imagine that would be an angle that the investigators would be pursuing.
That was the
Resentment,
first thing
lingering
that
resentment. I mean,
came. Yeah.
although it's very fucked up, because if you were bullied when you were in high school and you return 4 years later, all
You
the
became the bully.
assholes who tormented you are gone. Okay, so you're killing the wrong kids.
Right. Like I wonder what his gripe was. So I was pretty shocked to hear about a mass shooting there, because we have them so often here, and especially having, been a reporter and a local news reporter at that, you kind of grow numb. I mean, I don't think you ever truly fully grow numb if you allow it to actually sink in. But when I heard the news that there was a school shooting, I immediately thought it was in the US, and I had to double take, and I was like, what the fuck, Austria? And so this was very, very shocking. But you know what? 3 mass shootings since the year 2000 in the new millennium. That's actually a really good, I mean, if there's any good of this, it's a good low number, I guess,
Yeah, I mean,
relative to how often
apparently
we have them.
The U.S. has several per day, so that's true.
Yeah. So that is
I mean, like,
why do you think that is, Ted?
I'm on Team Robbie though. Producer Robbie in the chat said he wanted fame is my bet, and I think that's probably often the case. A lot of people, a lot of mass shooters, apparently, they are alienated from society. They're very angry. They feel they're lonely. They're alone. They can't relate to people. They feel like they've been mistreated or neglected in some way, and they lash out. They want to get even with society before they end their own lives. And the way to do that is they know we ostensibly care about our children. I mean, we don't really care about our children. That's why we don't fund the schools or pay teachers properly or protect them from all the things that are trying to get them. But we pretend to care about our kids. And so, I think the shooters who are, obviously psychologically damaged, go in and they go after kids for that reason. I think that's a pretty good guess.
Oh, I think for sure there is some form of psychological either deviancy or damage that all of these school shooters, all of them, look at all of them, going back to Dylan Seabolt and what's his face.
You would have to be.
Like in Columbine, like there's definitely psychological problems with the boys, usually the boys, that do this. 21 years old. Yeah. So there's usually some sort of emotional and psychological problem that's unaddressed. And I don't know if fame is necessarily the root of it, though. I wouldn't agree that they're looking to be famous.
The urge to be, I think what Robbie's getting at is the urge to be remembered as, you're going to die. Everybody wants, I mean, we can't be immortal. Nobody can be. But and really, truly, when we die, we're quickly forgotten. But, people don't want to be. So, yeah, like Robbie said, to be seen, they want to be seen. All right, let's keep going here. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said yesterday that 4,000 National Guardsmen will remain in LA for at least 60 days. That's a bizarre statement, Manila. It's like, why wouldn't you just leave them there for as long as they're needed? Just like 60 days. Reminds me a lot.
We only booked the hotel for 60 days, Ted. Come on.
It reminds me. I had a friend who had a very, very abusive father and evil stepmother, and I remember going by to see if he was available to hang out, and he was like, I don't know, we were probably like 13, and he was like, oh, I can't go. I have to wash the car for 1 hour. And I was like, you mean you just have to wash the car? No, I was told I have to wash the car for 1 hour. I was like, why do you have to wash the car for an hour? You could do a shitty job in an hour. You could do a great job in 10 minutes. It just depends on, you know what I mean? So that's what the 60-day thing is like, very strange. Anyway, also, this is going to cost the American taxpayer at least $134 million. What a great waste of money. The comments came in testimony before the House Appropriations Defense Subcommittee as it looks at the 2026 defense budget. That bill for 2026 allocates $831.5 billion to the Pentagon, the same as this year. An additional 150 billion over 4 years is expected to follow through congressional reconciliation plans, which would bring the total to an even $1 trillion.
Oh my God.
But of course,
cool
defense spending,
$1 trillion.
Yeah, cool $1 trillion. It's by far the biggest expenditure in the federal budget. Following Hegseth's testimony, the GOP subcommittee advanced the budget proposal, sending it to the broader Appropriations Committee for review. Full House vote is expected as soon as next month. And let's face it, it's going to pass. They always give the Defense Department everything they want and then some. They usually give them more than they've requested.
I know. They're like, here's a tip, and we won't even tax it. So not only is this 60-day assignment going to cost roughly 150 million U.S. taxpayer dollars, but Ted, you know what's coming up this weekend on Saturday?
Oh, I know.
It's not only Donald Trump's birthday, folks. It is the U.S. Army's
military parade.
The U.S. Army's 250th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So it just happens to be Donald Trump's birthday. So they're here in D.C. The preparations are underway. There's gridlock. Because they're bringing in tanks and like North Korean style, like I hope inert missile shells. Like, I don't know.
I want them to do like like in North Korea where they hold up the posters and they flip them over to turn them into giant big images. You know what I mean? When the crowd does that.
Oh,
so it would be where they show Kim Jong-un or whatever.
Like the University of Alabama crowds, like at the football games, they do the cool like pano of the.
I want them to
stadium.
Yeah, it should be pictures of Trump. It's like obviously.
Well, that too, Ted, is DoD spend, and that is going to cost. They've allocated $150 million for that, and roughly $50 million for street repairs downtown. I can't wait.
The streets are. God. These are city streets. They're not built for tank treads and stuff. Yeah. So they'll be completely torn up, as those of us who've been to war zones know. They chew up the streets.
So, Ted, we're going to spend roughly $200 million for the Army and Trump's birthday. And that's just here in D.C., plus Petey Hegseth's little fun deployment of his boys to downtown L.A., which is now under curfew in downtown for 60 days. I mean, the mayor...
the military is going to come to other cities now that the protests are spreading to places like Chicago and New York.
They are, because my peeps are under lock and key, even by the mayor now, which may or may not be the right thing to do. I don't know. I'm not there
Only
on the ground anymore.
Before 8 p.m.
That's right.
Riding at night is considered rude. It keeps up the neighbors.
That's true. I was one of those neighbors in downtown LA. I would have hated that. I was one of those people. It is rude. Some of us had to get up. I think at that time I was working for Morgan Stanley, so I did have to be up early, which is why I was pissed every time on weekends that they would have protests in the mornings outside of my window, because weekends were the only time I could sleep in.
What do you mean in the morning? Who has protests in the morning?
No, weekend mornings, I said.
But
weekend.
Who does protests weekend mornings?
A lot of people. I lived through them. A lot of groups have protests on the weekend.
As a veteran leftist protester in New York, I'm going to say another way that New Yorkers are superior to Californians is we don't protest first thing in the morning. We have to have breakfast first and get some carbs in there before we go face down.
You guys are civil. You guys are civil.
No, most protests in New York are like in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah, not us. LA protests started, and I could tell you because I lived right smack center downtown.
Like yesterday's big protest here in New York,
7 a.m., 8 a.m.
was scheduled for 1 p.m. Like, gives you time for lunch.
Wow. Run some errands, get your dry cleaning.
Yeah, obviously. Who can be up that early?
Not my people. It was like Saturday or Sunday morning, 7, 8 a.m.
Yeah,
so anyway, the
West
mayor
Coasters get up really early. And my theory is it's because of all the whole, the whole country kind of gets up roughly at the same time. So because of the time zone difference.
Oh,
so
really?
You know what I mean? Like when I lived in California, all my New York friends they'd call me at like 6 a.m. my time. They're like, well, it's 9 o'clock. It's normal. It's like, hello, curvature of the earth.
Right?
I'm in a different place, assholes.
Yeah.
And vice versa. When, I was in my California friends, they're like, oh, like, I can't really talk until, they all call like at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, their time. I'm like, dudes, it's 8 o'clock at night. Why are you calling? What are you doing?
Well, yeah, I face that problem now with my family, but for whatever reason, weekend protest, Ted, and then they do it all day, and then people are pissed. Well, maybe because it's really hot in California, they want to do it before. I don't know. It used to be really hot in New York too. I don't know, but all I know is I live downtown, and this is what I witnessed was early morning protests. And they usually didn't result in rioting. It was usually, very controlled, very measured.
That's the advantage. It's too early in the morning to riot.
Proper protest.
I mean, it's like everyone's so tired. You're waiting for the coffee to hit.
I guess. I don't know. But so I wasn't there for complete mayhem like apparently it is right now, is what my family is being
caused by, honestly, the mayhem is caused by the military and by the police, right? I mean,
I agree.
That's what always happens is like these protests are always calm until these goons show up and start scaring people.
What used to scare me when I lived downtown and these goons, we would regularly get flyers under our doors to warn us to not be freaked out if we see some dude in paramilitary gear rappelling down the side of the building. Because
that's normal.
They're doing tactical training. Either sometimes it was LAPD, sometimes it was military.
So again,
they're rappelling down the sides of our building.
If I see some dude here in New York rappelling outside my building and I haven't been properly notified and I don't see a uniform, I'm within my Second Amendment rights. That's all I've got to say. I'm going to assume
they're outside your building.
If they're in my if they're outside my window, I'm going to assume they're breaking. Yeah. I'm going to assume they're breaking in.
I don't know. They notified. I
guess if they notify, obviously, if they notify you, that's different.
They notified us. So anyway, going back to Petey Hegseth here, I still have a hard time considering that this guy is Secretary of Defense.
That he's straight.
No, he looks very straight. I mean, just look at him.
No, he doesn't. He's like, I've never seen. He would fit in very well any number of LGBT establishments, I think.
I don't know. He looks very much like a bro. Not to me. He looks like a bro to me. Very much like a bro. But so I have a hard time in my mind, like his little placard there says the Honorable Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. And I'm thinking, I'm like, is he honor really though? And he's Secretary of Defense still?
I know.
Like,
it's
wow,
so
okay.
Weird. Yeah.
But then I go, okay, those are the facts. That's what's happening. So yesterday at the hearing, when this lady, Congresswoman from Minnesota,
she must have paid $2 or $3 for that jacket. I mean, American dollars. Holy shit!
Not Canadian.
What is that?
Well,
it's like that color is so outlandish.
It's a highlighter.
That it is a highlighter. If I were coloring one of my cartoons, and I was in Photoshop, I wouldn't choose that color because it's too garish. It's totally like
same color. I mean,
it would be like no one would wear that color. Nobody does.
What color is that? Highlighter.
Can you imagine her husband like, oh, honey, I looked for you at the mall, but I couldn't find you. You looked like everybody else.
Problem solved.
If only you stood out.
Problem solved. So anyway, this
it's like, it burns. It burns.
It's a really bad jacket. This congresswoman she got into a little bit of a tussle with Hegseth because yesterday he was refusing to say how much this was going to cost. Now I have a couple bits of speculation around why, Ted. It could be one, and I'm not shading him for this because I have a problem with this too. One, math is hard. Or two, he honestly didn't know. So listen to how this all went down.
What is the current cost for what is taking place in California, and how is it going to affect this budget or the budget we're currently serving under? How much are these deployments going to cost for both the Marines and the National Guard?
Well, Congresswoman, thank you for the question. You are right. We're both originally from Minnesota, which is why I recall 2020 quite well, when Governor Walz abandoned a police precinct and allowed it to be burned to the ground, and also allowed 5 days of chaos to occur inside the streets of Minneapolis. So in Los Angeles, we believe that ICE, which is a federal law enforcement agency, has the right to safely conduct operations in any state and any jurisdiction in the country, especially after 21 million illegals have crossed our border under the previous administration. ICE ought to be able to do its job, whether it's Minneapolis or Los Angeles.
I have limited time. I asked a budget
and they
question.
Are being,
Could the Secretary please address the budget? Thank you.
You asked about the situation in Los Angeles, and we believe ICE agents should be allowed to be safe in doing their operations, and we have deployed National Guard and the Marines to protect them in the
All right, so there you heard it. I don't know if he was just being evasive or he honestly didn't know, but they went back and forth on this, and a couple Democratic Congresswomen in particular were jumping on him about this, and now we know the actual cost. So we know it's going to cost basically roughly, because there's always a cost overrun on everything that they estimate at the DoD.
Yeah.
So they're like, it's only going to cost $134 million for 60 whole days.
Plus room
and
service.
Then it always ends up being more. Well, yeah, they don't, but according to Governor Newsom, he says that because this was hastily planned, that the Marines that are being deployed are like stacked up all over each other, sleeping on the floor at wherever they're making their base camp. They're just sleeping everywhere, and that they don't have accommodations. Hotels are apparently, local reporters are checking, are the Marines checked in here? Are they checked in here? Where are they checked in? And apparently no one's found yet where the Marines are going to be bunked.
Apparently ICE is in Pasadena at some hotel.
Well, so that, but Ted, it's more revenue for local businesses.
True. It's not like LA doesn't have already an experience with homelessness. They can just sleep on the street like everyone else. No big deal. All right, let's keep going here.
It's what we do there.
After 2 days of talks in London, the U.S. and China have agreed to a framework, in other words, deal points, to implement a new trade deal struck last month. That's according to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Progress on trade peace with China, particularly if it resolves the issue, and apparently it does, of rare earth mineral exports, would help the economy and markets that have struggled for months due to Trump's tariffs. Lutnick said that the deal is great for America. And he said that this all followed Trump's decision to pick up the phone, call President Xi, and be nice. And there was a long call last week. The Chinese quoted from the call several times during the negotiations. After a series of tit-for-tat retaliations in April, China and the U.S. effectively had a trade embargo in place with 145% U.S. tariffs crushing imports from China. So the new deal has a 90-day pause on most of those tariffs as of May 12th. Only days later, the U.S. issued new restrictions on the use of certain ships from one particular company, saying that they were a violation. Anyway, this went back and forth. Currently, where things stand is that there's this consensus. The new deal basically gets the May 12th deal back on track. Basically Chinese exports dropped 34% last month, despite the sort of temporary truce due to the uncertainty over what might come next. So basically the details are just coming out. But what I've heard, Manila, is that there's roughly a 45% tariff that's going to be in place by the U.S. On Chinese goods, and a 10% tariff in China against American exports is where things supposedly are going to land.
Well,
Oh, and also the U.S. will get the rare earth minerals that have been, by the way, it's just so funny. A lot of like fighter jets and stuff rely on these.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be smart to just sort of design fighter jets that don't need
I
them?
don't need. Yeah, but
Just asking.
Ted, all the Chinese students are no longer allowed to come to Harvard and design all of these
And
things.
that's also another thing. The Chinese
So-
students are going to get, under this deal, in all seriousness, they're going to get visas.
Are they?
Yeah.
That was negotiated as
that
part
was
of the deal?
negotiated. That's part of the deal. So
Well, I mean,
everything in Trump world is transactional.
Yes.
Everything's for sale.
oh, for sure. Well, a lot of the things I was reading this morning was more on, an angle that people don't really consider is like on the pharmaceutical side. Because remember, Americans are the sickest first world nation in the world. We're the sickest. We're the most reliant on, the answer to everything being in this little bottle. And this little bottle, Ted, did you know that more than half of our little bottle pills come from either China or India? It's almost split between the two.
I did know that.
You did or did not?
I did know
You
that.
did. Yeah. So something like
Well, you and I have personal experience with that.
That's right. India and China are the biggest, not only the compounders, but they are the sources of the basically raw materials to make pretty much every drug, and especially antibiotics. The vast majority, something like 90%, something, I mean, crazy, a high number, almost 90% of all antibiotics used in America. And we be some infected people, let me tell you. So not almost 90% of American antibiotics, their original compounding or source materials come from China. So, if Trump wanted a FAFO, fuck around and find out. The Chinese could really do some harm that way by saying, you know what, maybe you don't need all these medicines after all. And then guess what that does to us with our cost of medicine, which is already through the
honestly,
roof?
that's projection. Chinese people, the Chinese are just not assholes like that.
Right, but they're not assholes.
They just
That's
wouldn't do that.
That's right. They wouldn't do that to us, but
or to anyone.
could,
They're just not
could.
shitheads like we are.
But
we would do that. I know we do.
Power,
we do.
Yeah,
do
if we had the power, if we had the manufacturing capacity like they had, we would absolutely lord that power over other people, over other countries' heads, for sure.
Yeah.
We would leverage it for sure.
Because we're the worst. Yeah. We would find a way to capitalize and leverage that. But meanwhile, I'm just putting that out there because we know, the Trump admin people watch this show regularly, Ted. Maybe you guys should think about that. Big Pharma, especially how everything's funded by Big Pharma. A lot of pharma comes from China and That's
India. You might want to keep that in mind. That's all. Just saying.
Look, honestly, this is like, and before we move on to the main topic here, I think, which is Israel, I don't think that there's this reminds me a lot of the opportunity that the U.S. had after World War II and after the collapse of the Soviet Union to make friends with the Russians. Like, basically, here's the biggest other country in the world, that the most powerful, most important. And like, you can be friends or you can be enemies. It's up to us. We always choose the wrong path. Now, here we go again. Now China is that country. And we have that opportunity to be friends, which the Chinese would love, and would be good for us and for our economy and save us a lot of money on defense and so on. Or we can be dicks. Those are the choices. I mean, and we
always choose the latter.
We do.
Wait, yeah, that's just us though. Is it a cultural thing? Is it a capitalism thing? I mean, what is it, Ted?
It's a cultural thing. I mean, when you're, there's anthropologists who say that Anglo-Saxons, the from whence the United States was founded,
the founding fathers,
from the Brits, are the most aggressive and hostile tribes to have ever lived on the planet, or at least in like the last few thousand years, and that they're just mean motherfuckers, and that basically they're just aggro, and that like they're a hammer and everything looks like a fucking nail. I mean, they're brutes, they're idiots.
I mean, I guess I'd have to read more about that, but the basic summary of it, I could see how that makes sense for sure.
Mhm.
If you look at, I mean, that's why half the world, the sun never set on the queen. What was it? The Queen's Empire. What do they call it? What's that saying?
The British Empire.
Yeah. So like the sun just never sets. I mean, that's for a reason. It's not because they went there and were like, hello, like, would you like some tea and crumpets? Let's be friends. That's not what happened.
No.
So I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I buy that. I buy that answer. And because America was founded by the people that are from that culture, makes sense to me.
All right, let's get to the main gist, and then we'll let you go catch up on your Z's.
No Z's for this, Mom.
on your caffeine.
Oh God, yes.
All right, so here we go. So Manila, there's, as you know, the main argument for people who support Israel is that Jewish people can't live safely anywhere else in the world but Israel. The Jewish state is the only place where they can be safe to be themselves without being attacked or killed. Right. This was, of course, obviously the main argument in 1948, right after the Holocaust, when Israel was created.
Pause before you get too far into this and start reading the column.
I'm not going to read it.
Robbie said, "Oh, okay." Robbie says we have to do a word from our sponsor.
Okay, let's do it. Did he put it
up? Today's sponsor. I don't know if Robbie's.
Well, okay, we probably in the future probably just do it, and then we don't have to
just post it and then let us know.
We don't have this awkward pause.
Yeah, just post it in the future. Just post it.
Posting as quickly as he possibly can, but
just post it first and then say, do this ad.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're still sorry, guys. We're still new at all of this sponsorship stuff.
We're not that new, but yeah.
New-ish.
Here we go. Okay. All right. If you're looking for a great place online for news, discussion, and entertainment, check out Truth Social, Donald Trump's social media website. You'll get breaking news stories and commentary from top media figures, including me, Ted Rall. I'm always there. If you want to see Trump's legendary Truth Social posts, then get on Truth Social today. Join a growing community of patriots on a free speech platform designed to avoid censorship and cancellation by big tech. Make your voice heard. Join the movement. Join Truth Social. All right. So basically, the arguments for supporting Israel always kind of boils down to, the critics of Israel want to eliminate the country entirely. The abolition, it's the only place that Jews can live safely. Getting rid of Israel would mean that Israeli Jews would be ethnically cleansed. They'd have no place to live, or they might even all be killed. They might all be genocided. And that anyone who criticizes Israel, therefore, is anti-Semitic, because anybody who is, even if you're just like appalled by what Israel's doing to the Palestinians. And the thing is, so I think like many people, I grew up with these assumptions. Obviously I'm almost 62 years old. So, I was born only a few decades after World War II. And so I grew up with these, and I started thinking the other day, well, are these arguments really true? And so I started to do some calculus, and basically here's what I found. Mainly, there is no place that is less safe in the world to be Jewish than Israel. If you're trying to keep Jews safe, you should get them all out of Israel or get rid of Israel. They would all be much, much better off. So basically, 7.2 million Jews in the world live in Israel. That's 3 out of 4 Israelis, okay? And about 8 million people live everywhere else. And we're going to call that the Jewish diaspora, right? So over the last 10 years, according to the authorities, about 1,755 Jewish people died in Israel due to terrorism, hate crimes, and armed conflict. Now, that's about 0.024% of the population, or when you divide 1,755 into out of 7.2 million. During the same period, about 24 people were killed for the same reasons, Jew or Jewish, outside of Israel, out of the entire global Jewish population. So when you divide 24 into 8 million, you get 0.00003%. Bottom line is it is 73 times more. If you're Jewish and you're in Israel, you're 73 times likelier to be killed due to terrorism, hate crime, or armed conflict than if you live anywhere else on the planet. And even now, it's true that like the October 7th attacks, contributed to those numbers. But even so, Israel is always a lot more dangerous for Jewish people. So this entire argument completely does not get into, my stance on supporting the people of Palestine is crystal clear, but that's a different topic for a different day. So basically, if you take the arguments one by one, Manila, none of this stuff makes any sense. Like, for example, the idea that, for example, the Anti-Defamation League and the American Jewish Committee, which are both Zionist groups, say that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, is anti-Semitic because it calls for the establishment of, this is a quote, of a state of Palestine from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, erasing the state of Israel, true, and its people, not true. Mm-hmm. Now, that basically, in this telling, it says that the state and the people are exactly the same thing. If you get rid of a country, all the people in that country go away. Well, that's clearly not true. Okay, in 1991, the Soviet Union went away, but the people are still here. East Germany went away in a few years before that. Those people who lived in East Germany are now in Germany. South Vietnam is no longer a country. It's no longer a nation state, but the people who lived there are now part of the Unified Republic of Vietnam, and so on. The Republic of Texas, which went away in 1845, is now part of the United States. The people who lived there are still, they survived. The Kingdom of Hawaii was invaded by U.S. Marines in the 1880s. It's still, the Hawaiian people are still here, and on and on and on and on. Now, there's some exceptions, like Armenia and Tibet. The nation states collapsed, and there were genocides there, but the two things were not really like if-then. And so, right. and those are exceptions. So it's entirely possible to call for the abolition of the state of Israel without saying that the people who live there need to leave. It's like calling for the end of apartheid South Africa, but you don't need the white people to leave. You're just calling for an end to the apartheid system. And so anyway, long story short, maybe too late for that, but Israel is dangerous to Jews. The idea that it's a safe haven for Jews is wrong. It actually turns Jews into a target. And of course, its policies are making life more dangerous for Jews everywhere else around the world because it helps promote anti-Semitism by making people hate Jews who might not otherwise, because Israel's policies are so toxic and so genocidal and repulsive that it causes people who hate Israel to also, in some cases, hate Jewish people. So to
conflate them. Yeah.
So my argument is, like, even if you don't give a shit about the people of Palestine, even if you're a total Zionist and your only concern here is for the safety of Jewish people, you should be for the abolition of the state of Israel. You certainly can't be thinking that Israel is keeping your people safe. It's not. It's turning your people into a target.
I mean, numbers, although they're not my thing, they're hard to argue with. If you do them correctly without an agenda and just doing the math, they're empirical. They just show you what, if statistically, look, first, it's been done on purpose to conflate the nation state of Israel as the people, like Jewish people, and right. that if you dare reject anything that the state of Israel does, then thus you hate all Jews. That obviously is a very manufactured public relations talking point from places like AIPAC. They do that on purpose to actually prevent people from speaking up in any way, because as you and I know, Ted, if you take our microphones away, then there's no objection. What do you know? Isn't that funny? However, if you just do the basic math, like you said, I don't know, what are we looking at? Roughly somewhere around 16 million Jews, maybe worldwide total.
That's right. That's right.
Grand total. And I don't know if you count, people that are identify as half Jewish, but their mother's not Jewish, their dad is Jewish. So, Jews don't count those Jews as Jews, but
I don't think they count.
Yeah. So, but some of those people identify as Jews. So anyway, let's just say, give it a round number, 16 million Jews. More than half of the world's Jewish population live elsewhere, not in the state of Israel.
Mhm.
And then if you go even further, most of the Jews that live outside of Israel are fairly secular and non-practicing, except for like high holidays, and they don't really, they're not really very Ben Shapiro Jewy.
Right.
Yes.
They're secular. Yeah.
They're pretty secular. I mean, this is where the part that gets kind of sketchy and difficult to, it's hard. You can't really take the Jewishness out of the culture, out of, some might say a race, some might say a nationality. But given, the couple of Ashkenazi Jews that I've dated in my life, and one time very, very, very seriously, and I considered converting, which was a difficult, horrible process that you would have to go through.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Very difficult.
Which is not, by the way, probably not a good plan for any religion, to make it hard to join.
Right, to join the tribe.
Yeah,
but I considered it.
Yeah.
But, by and large, that particular Ashkenazi Jew and most of the other Jews that I knew are very non-practicing. They don't read from the Torah every night. There's no, there's maybe there's a mezuzah outside the door, but they don't identify with, they don't look at Bibi Netanyahu and are like, yes, that is my leader, my spiritual leader, my cultural leader, my president. I identify with Israel. They don't, but there are those who will say, even though they think those things about Bibi Netanyahu, but they still want to protect the state, which baffles me.
What I'm arguing, though, Manila, is that this is legacy thinking. Look, the truth is,
I don't know what the younger generation thinks. We're talking about people like in our group.
We were all taught as kids, basically in school, that like after the Holocaust, the world realized, holy shit, it's dangerous to be Jewish. Right. They need to have a place where they can call their own.
And your numbers prove it out.
So the UN gave them Israel, and like we didn't spend much time.
It was under conservatorship by the British, though, for many years.
And that we didn't really
Britney Spears.
So the Brits, yeah, I mean, the Brits gave away something that wasn't really theirs to in the first place. But anyway, and we kind of pretended like nobody lived there to begin with. And then it's like, oh, why wouldn't they share? But so the point is, of course, that's not really true, right? The whole idea is the myth is that Zionism and that the drive to create Israel came out of the Holocaust. That's not true at all, right? I mean, that comes out of basically the late 19th century. Theodor Herzl, early Zionism is really the origins of the state of Israel, and then Jewish immigration from Europe to Palestine in like the 19-teens and 20s, and then accelerated dramatically after the Balfour Declaration in 1920. The British basically said, this is our mandate. We control this section of the Ottoman Empire. You guys can come in and like live here, and it's fine. We're totally cool with it.
What is it?
Come on over.
Mizrahim Jews.
So 1920 really is when things start, and then World War II and the Holocaust is really obviously the Nazi period is 1933 to 1945. The Holocaust is 1941 to 1945, and then the State of Israel is founded in 1948. But the point is that the fix was already in. The Zionist movement was like they took advantage of the Holocaust to say that like, oh, now with the Holocaust going on, this really proves our point that like Jews can't be safe anywhere else. So this like you guys got to go live there. And there were a lot of, to be fair, homeless Jews at the end of World War II who were survived the Holocaust and didn't have anywhere to go, and so it was like, oh, we'll go. We might as well go there. Everyone's doing it. Let's go. But the thing is that whatever logic there was at that time, and the truth is, there was less. The main threat was gone with the defeat of Nazi Germany, but whatever threat there still was psychologically is no more. Okay, like basically things have changed radically. Israel is now an aggressive genocidal force in the region.
And it's such a small population too.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, like you established, more than half of the world's Jews do not live in Israel. And
although you could say that, I mean, it is still a high percentage of the world's Jews live in this tiny little country, right?
Sure.
And
but
it's about
more than half of them do not.
Now, for
and
people
nor
who
are they Israeli to begin with.
Numbers,
they can get the citizenship just like you got your French citizenship.
The people in Gaza and Palestine are stateless. They're not considered to have any citizenship whatsoever. And then there's about a quarter of the population of Israel proper, which is to say, not the occupied territories, are non-Jewish, right? So they're something else, right?
So
there's all sorts of other.
I mean, just based on empirical evidence from math that shows your likelihood of death from terrorism or other armed conflict or whatever, the numbers kind of don't lie. If you're an Israeli Jew, if you're an Israeli Jew in Israel.
I was shopping at the Jerusalem Mall one time, and a balloon popped. Everybody hits the floor and pulls out their guns.
They have guns?
Oh, are you
They
kidding?
all have guns?
They all have guns. Haven't you ever seen the videos of like the like hot lady soldiers with their Uzis, like just hanging off their backs?
They're soldiers because they're IDF chicks, but I didn't know like the civilian population was heavily armed.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of guns.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, when I say everybody, it's not like every single person in the mall had a gun, but there were a lot of people with guns. And the point is, everybody's ready. And I remember taking the bus to go to the mall.
Well, they're all trained soldiers.
And I remember thinking, this bus could blow up any second. You go to a cafe, you're like, this cafe could blow up any second. It's spooky there.
That's something you literally have to think about when you're in Israel.
Yeah, less so because, I mean, honestly, when they built the wall that separated, the occupied territories from Israel, those attacks definitely declined in number. Part of the reason that a lot of Israelis are kind of like, this isn't so bad. Never mind the fact that it's brutal, but like it did reduce the amount of terrorism. But there's the rocket attacks. There's still terror
Robbie's
attacks.
going to say, "See, walls work."
Walls can work, for sure. So
the Chinese know that.
I really want to be fair here. It's not like, I'm against the wall, but those walls do work.
But generally speaking, walls work. I mean, ask the Chinese. Ask if the Mongols enjoyed trying to get over that. So,
true. True.
So
all of that's true. But but the point is, if you're trying to say like, if you support Israel because you're just like, we need a place for this, these people to have to be safe, that's just not true. I mean, it's not.
But statistically, they're not safer in this so-called homeland.
No, and if you went to if the state of Israel was abolished as an entity, if you created a democratic Republic of Palestine where you combined Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank, and everybody lived side by side, they could live in peace. In fact, they probably would live in peace because they did under the Ottoman Empire. We know that they did.
Prior to the 20th century, I think that's
entirely possible. And it's like to say that they would that the Palestinians would kill them all. I mean, that's a slander, and it's like there's no evidence to support that whatsoever. I mean, that just isn't true. That's what the whites said in apartheid South Africa. Oh, if we get rid of apartheid, the blacks are going to kill us all. Well, that didn't happen. And it's like, I mean, it just wasn't true. The blacks in South Africa just wanted to be not oppressed by apartheid. So,
Yeah, I really should have taken advantage of my proximity to Israel and even Lebanon when I lived in the Middle East. I mean, I just didn't take advantage of it. I was busy going to Europe a lot. I could have easily done stories like, you know, out of Israel. Looking at these images, I really wish I had the chance to. No, I had the chance. I wish I took the opportunity to go. Is my point. But now, you know, with all of this happening, all I can say is this, in terms of PR, I think the era of Israel being in people's good graces is over. And the PR, I'm sorry to say, but it's been a stunt. It's been a PR stunt since October 7th, that a lot of this is manufactured. A lot of this crisis could have been avoided. I'm talking about from the Israeli side. I don't mean what's happening to Gaza. I mean, from the Israeli perspective, Benjamin Netanyahu could have really done a lot of things differently for his own people. But now his evil behavior is now being projected on other Israelis. And I'm not sure. I'm not going to say every Israeli or every Israeli Jew or every Jew, it's hard to say that, right, thinks the way Benjamin Netanyahu does.
They don't.
But, and it's not fair to say they all, right? Because that's just not fair.
It's also just not true.
It's right. And that's why it's not fair, because it's impossible for they all to be true. But now that Netanyahu has continued what he's done, especially now with like the starvation of Gaza, this PR, this campaign that he's gone on with, this whole, you know, oh, we're victims and blah, blah, blah. I think that charade is kind of over, and it's actually making more people dislike all Jews. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that they should. They shouldn't. In fact, I'm saying just the opposite. They should not. But the fact that the head of state there is taking this tack of the cruelty, being just stomping on the necks and heads of the people in Gaza right now, that the video that's playing out in real time, other people around the world are now projecting Benjamin Netanyahu's ideologies onto the global Jews. And that's why I think you're seeing a lot more anti-Semitism show up, not only on Twitter, but everywhere else, in terms of like just bad language. I'm not saying they're being accosted in the streets, because that's just not happening. But I think there's some more resentment, I would say, towards Jewish people in general right now, because they're projecting, you know, the Knesset and Netanyahu.
Look, it's fucking ideals. Look, Zionism is dangerous to Jewish people, right? I mean, because the Zionist argument is, you know, to be truly Jewish, you support Israel. Judea, to be, you know, you have to have the
deliberate conflation.
The deliberate conflation. I mean, down to the fact that there's the Star of David on the flag. They're one and the same. Judaism, anti-Semitism, and anti-Zionism are the same. Therefore, Semitism and Zionism are the same. And so, if you succeed in promoting that message, which they have succeeded, in, you know, not 100%, but a lot of people believe that. Well, then, if the Israeli state does something wrong, or evil, or unpopular, then by definition, then the smear of that devolves onto the Jewish people, who had nothing to do with it, right?
Agreed.
I mean, nobody who lives in Israel has anything to do with it, and and even most of the population of Israel, you know, they don't support Netanyahu. So it's like, it would be kind of like holding all, you know, English-speaking people responsible for the actions of the UK, let's say. I mean, I don't have anything to do with the UK government at all. And, you know, so why should someone be mad at me? But
right. Or the war in Afghanistan, because we're Americans and we were alive at the time that George W. Bush decided on this foreign policy, that we're responsible, because but sad to say, it's true. That's human nature, Ted. That's why a lot of people right now have some resentment being projected onto Jews everywhere now,
And I think that's
specifically
I think it's
in
important
Israel.
for Jewish people, and there are many of them, to resist and openly oppose Israeli policy. Groups
Sure.
like Jewish Voice for Peace and so on are doing a great job there. We just need more of it. That's all. I mean, it's all about educating people. Anyway, I just wanted that. I thought it was an important thought exercise, because sometimes, in our political discourse, we hear people talking about saying the same shibboleths over and over and over, like, like Joe Biden said early on in his term when he was hanging out with Netanyahu, like, oh, where would Jewish people go if not for Israel? Or
Everywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently, Golda Meir, she said, oh, our famously our secret weapon against the Arabs is that we have no other place to go. Okay, well, that wasn't true, and it's really not true now. And those numbers show it. Like, I mean, basically, it is a big deal. Anyway, I just wanted to say that, make that point. I think we should wrap it up, but
Yeah, I think the math tells a different. I think the math tells a different story, and I agree with you. I didn't bother to do the math because there's too many decimals and too many zeros before you finally get to a number.
Mm-hmm.
So it's too minuscule for me. I don't like that kind of minutia. It's too much math. But the math definitely does tell a different story. And again, I don't hate any peoples, plural, any peoples of, because I know that people are individuals. I mean, can there be small groups of, horrible humans? Like, let's say, skinhead neo-Nazi Azov people. Yeah, I can say, sure. I probably would not like hanging out with you, and you probably wish death upon me. That's fair to say. But broadly, can I say all Ukrainians are bad? No. Can I say all Russians are bad? No. No, of course not. It's just not true. The same thing with Jewish people. So and
the same thing with Zionists. I just think that the Zionist people they're relying on some faulty assumptions that I hope that they will reconsider.
And
some very outdated assumptions. I mean, look, if they wanted to make the same case at the peak of when Zionism was really at a fever pitch, like in the early 1900s, when the pogroms were taking place in the Russian Empire and in Belarus, and most of all, the one place in the world where they happen more than anywhere else, yes, the land of the future Azovs, Ukraine, the most anti-Semitic country in the world. If that were, if you wanted to make that case in 1908, like our people can't live safely, where they live
anywhere
in Central and Eastern Europe, in places like Belarus and Ukraine, I would say you're making a pretty solid point. Although the whole idea, and early Zionists, by the way, were totally opposed to this idea of seizing Arab land. They were like, we'll do everything by the book. We'll buy at a fair price. We'll hire locals whenever we start businesses. We're not trying to take over. We just want to live side by side in peace. That's how early Zionism was. Theodor Herzl, who came up with modern Zionism, literally wrote the book on it. It's only after he died and his influence waned that things got more militant, and the agro-Zionists, as we know them today, like, fuck it, we're taking the whole schmear.
Right.
That's when that started to happen. But the point is, what was true in 1908 is not true in 2025. It's an entirely different world, and you just can't live like it's still 1908.
Agreed. I mean, I'm glad you did the math. I hope it gets published somewhere, because it'll
be syndicated. The Washington Post reached out; they're interested, so we'll see. If not, I'll syndicate it. Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that the math was done, because, like I said, the math tells you a different story than what is being reported by pro-Zionist media and obviously the head of state in Israel. Because President Isaac Herzog is not really, he's just a figurehead.
Well, yeah,
it's Benjamin
Israel has a weak, their governmental system has a weak presidency.
Yeah, it's very, very weird. Herzog is the only Herzog that matters is the filmmaker. So
Werner.
it's only Herzog that matters. Otherwise, it's all Bibi Netanyahu. So, you know, and not everybody is like him. So I would just try to remind people, and especially like our American coastal Jews. They're not all Ben Shapiro, even though can you believe he's from California? You know,
Boy.
just can't believe I can't. Oy vey is right. Oh my. Anyway, us Goyim's gotta go. It's
gotta.
It's time. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Do we have a guest tomorrow, Ted?
Not to my. Oh, yes, we do.
Thursday.
We will.
Thursday.
Tomorrow we will have a documentary filmmaker who directed a film called Happy in the Bronx. If you're familiar with this case, look up the case of Happy the Elephant. So Happy the Elephant is not happy. She's an elephant at the Bronx Zoo. And basically, there's a lawsuit that's attempting to have her and presumably other elephants recognized as beings that have rights, that have civil rights. And so this brings up some really profound questions. I mean, we all know elephants are super smart.
Right.
If elephants
They're
are super
sentient.
smart and super sentient, and in some ways smarter than we are, then don't they, if a corporation is a person under the purpose of the law, shouldn't an elephant be a person under the law? And the Constitution is silent on this question. So the hope is that this would go up to the U.S. Supreme Court and possibly redefine elephants as persons under the law, not like human beings, but persons.
Right.
And then the question is then, I mean, this is a huge climb, right, legally. But let's say that were to happen, then what about other animals? So are human beings really special? And should they be? I mean, it's literally the question. It's about who we are and what we are. So
it's going to be an interesting conversation. And then
yeah.
Friday we're going to do immigration talk with old friend of the show, Susan Pye. She'll be joining us.
Oh, I'm looking forward to talking to
break
her.
down.
It's been too long.
All of this. She says she's been super busy. Gee, I wonder why.
Is anything going on? Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. And she's a partner now. She's moved back to the West Coast. So good for her. She's swamped. So we're going to end it.
She's really good.
Really smart. We're going to end the week with a big bang. So we'll do an animal story and people that the Trump administration treats as animals. So there you go.
Yeah, but what will the Trump administration do if animals are recognized as people, and then we start defining people as animals who are people? Then what? Is that going to make his brain explode, or will he just order more burgers?
Would you just have to reclassify migrants as something else?
Maybe
that's the key. Make a third thing.
By the way, I think the real target here is not migrants. The real target here is going to be protesters. Trump wants to kill protesters to show that he has big dick energy. That's what this is about. And
I hope that's
and let me
not
just
right.
say, the American people,
For a lot of reasons.
we know this from the Vietnam era. You know, right wingers are like, oh yeah, kill them all, and it's all good fun until you see some young people with their brains splattered on the sidewalk, and then you're like, oh shit, that could have been my son. That could have been my
shit got real.
My daughter. Yeah,
that escalated quickly.
I mean, we can see this coming. It's going to happen, and and then people are going to be so very sad.
Well, Ted, so you mean like 20-year-old Marines armed to the teeth on the streets of downtown LA, and you don't think they're trained to de-escalate with like some rowdy Los Angeles, probably Mexican American protesters?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, who are yelling at them and calling them all sorts of names, and it's fucking like 85 degrees and you're sweaty and itchy under your Kevlar, and no, I mean, seriously, you could really see at a certain point. Like, I know myself, if I'm armed to the teeth and I'm grouchy and someone's giving me shit, I might be like, I have a huge gun. I don't have to put up with you right now. Yeah.
All it takes is for one 20-year-old to be like, you know what? Fuck you, asshole. And all hell breaks loose.
And that's exactly how it goes. And that's why you don't send those people into that situation.
Yeah. But, you know, animals as humans, humans treated as animals. And now, yeah. So welcome to Los Angeles.
And
it's a fucking zoo.
And, you know, if Happy the elephant gets her way, soon Clovis could be demanding equal rights.
Ted,
although he's my lord and master, so
he has more rights than you.
That's true. And rightly so.
He has more. Yeah,
I, for one, welcome our feline overlords.
I think he lives a much better life than you. Let's be honest.
Oh. Yeah, I see him right now. On top
his quality of life is much better than yours.
He's on top of a pile of pillows like the Princess and the Pea. All right.
Quality of life. All right, guys, that's it. We'll be back tomorrow with this interesting Happy the elephant conversation. That'll be a unique animal topic for sure. Yeah. Not animal attacks. So I don't think Happy attacked anyone. All right, guys, thanks for being here. Hit that like button, the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Adios, amigos. Thanks for being here. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.